A very, very special guest with us. We are happy to welcome in Armando Villarreal. He is a sports artist who, if you watched that Utah-Oregon game, you saw some pretty sweet Utah helmets. And he's here today because he custom painted all 150 helmets. So Armando, thank you so much for joining us. We're really happy that you're here.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
So yeah, just first things first, again, that Utah-Oregon game, Utah had custom painted helmets that you spent, at least I was reading reports, over a year working on. Can you talk just a little bit about how you got involved in this particular project with Utah and the inspiration behind the design?
I found an ad doing sports art on Craigslist, actually.
Wow.
And we started doing sports art, got licensed by Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, NHL, Muhammad Ali, Indianapolis 500. We were at a retail summit for Major League Baseball in Las Vegas. And one of the shut guys came up and asked if I'd ever did a football helmet. And I was like, well, yeah, a few of them. He's like, well, how about for the whole team? And I was like, what do you mean? And so we got to talking about that. And I was like, well, we'll have to ask my boss. My boss wasn't interested in tying me up that long to do that. And then I left that company. Fast forward a couple of years, one of my friends runs into that same guy from Shut, and he's like, hey, I heard you're on your own now. Would you be interested in doing that? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So we did Mississippi State in 2018, I think. And then 2019, we turned around and I did the UCF Moon helmet. I did Utah's throwback helmet. And then I painted some for Michigan, the university. And then we were planning on doing something for, 2020. And then COVID hit. So that got kind of canceled. And that's about the time they brought up this USS Salt Lake City helmet. And they said that, that they had been working with the Department of Navy and Under Armour for already a year now when they brought it to me. So they had the uniform designed and they had this great big presentation of what the ship did and what it meant and everything. So they just needed the helmet. So we had started that. It's been almost 18 months ago. We started designing it, and you go back and forth trying to figure it out. And then I got the helmets. I probably got the helmets 4 or 5 months ago, but I did Pitt's Steel Panther last year. Mm-hmm. And then we did another 70 for them this year. And then I did all of Shut's helmets from Maryland that have the flag on it. And I had to get those done first. And then I got to Utah's helmet, and so I have a full-time job. I don't do this full-time right now. I work for the city. So my wife, when she had spare time, she would sand all the helmets, and then she'd put the masking on it and just get it ready so that all I had to do was, when I got off work, I'd airbrush. And so I'm airbrushing on the weekends. I'm airbrushing at night. We have a day off work. I'd airbrush. And it took probably start to finish about 3 months of doing that. So how long it actually took per helmet, I couldn't tell you, but we lived and breathed Utah helmets for the last 3 months. So
I believe it.
It was quite a relief to get all those done. And then, just to see them on the field finally was just such a relief. So it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Armando, I would love to know what your process is for painting these helmets. From some of the videos that you had shared and that Utah's official page had shared, looks like it was a multi-step process, some stenciling, some freehand. I just love to know, what does it take to take a helmet from just its bare form to what it ended up being?
We sand it first, and just to get some, tooth on it, get the shiny off of it. And then Laura's got a Cricut, and I went through and made like a silhouette of the ship and then, so we put that on it, and then the USS Salt Lake City and the stars, and then the two Corsairs. And then I airbrushed all the background around it. And then I had a shield to do the cannon blast because I didn't want a hard edge on it. And then I just kind of airbrushed that in quick. And then we added, originally that was black and white. like the rest of the ship. And then Cody, the equipment manager, is like, what if we added a little bit of orange to that cannon blast? What do you think? So I did that, and it kind of made it pop a little bit. So then, so we added that step to it, and I had cut kind of a stencil, I guess it'd be. And with the curve of the helmet, I had to cut it in 4 pieces, and then you do a little spot, in the middle of the ship, and then the top of the ship, and then the front and the back of the ship, and kind of make sure they try and line them up. They're all just a hair different with the curve of the helmet and all the different sizes helmets. And it was Schutt and Riddell and Visus. And so we lay those down with that dark part, and then I'd go through with my airbrush and kind of, so it was just black and gray at that point. So then I would go in and with my airbrush kind of blend it all out and blend it together a little bit. And then that paint's thin enough that I take an old typewriter pencil and I can scratch out some of the highlights. And then that's how you got like the tracer rounds and it's some of the highlights in it and things like that. And then at that point it was just ready to clear it.
Wow.
So, and we'd do, my dad built a drying rack for the helmet. So we'd have, and that originally had 24 because the Schutt boxes come with 6 helmets in it. So we had 6 rows of, the 4. And so we started with that. And then when you get to the Riddell helmets, there's boxes of 10. So then we just started doing 10 at a time. And you just kind of, so everything's in, so I'm working on my helmets. Laura's working on her helmets. Some of them are drying in the clearing room. So we just kind of have helmets everywhere. They start in the garage, then they go to the studio, then they go to the paint room, and then we ship them back out. So it's the third year of it. So it sounds like a mess, but it's actually fairly smooth. That first year when we did Mississippi State, I had no idea what we were getting into, and it was just a mess. So we've streamlined it quite a bit, but that first, I didn't think Schutt was going to call us back after that first year. That was such a mess. But it's worked out good, and now I'm like the official airbrush artist and special projects for Schutt now.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
They called that.
That's amazing. I mean, that just kind of, I'm just in awe with all the details that you're giving me of everything that you and your family really did to make those helmets. And you probably don't want to think about this right now since you were just at a game and just got to see the helmets and just got to see them. But I'm curious if there's a next project in the future. Is there already one on the radar? Maybe some others that you might be able to share with us that we could be looking out for?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to get you in trouble. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can share
all good.
Who's doing it or what.
Okay.
But I can tell you there are 3 right now.
Wow.
Okay.
That we will start concept work tomorrow already.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was like the guys at Schutt are like, this is fantastic, great job. Get back to work.
No rest for the weary. My goodness.
No rest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
man.
I appreciate you even sharing that, because that just gives us kind of we'll be on the lookout for the next project. My follow-up to that, I guess, is you've already mentioned kind of Mississippi State and Pitt and some of those other projects you've worked on. Do you have a favorite? Also, do you get to keep one of the helmets?
Oh, that's a good
I'm
question.
a little even curious about that.
I really like the moon helmet, but this one we just did for Utah is just by far my favorite. It was just the most complicated, the most meaningful. And then just where we went to the game and the way that Utah and the team and the way they treated us and they made us feel awfully special this weekend. It's just hard not for that probably to be my favorite helmet ever. And when I get the team's helmets done, I paint one helmet for me to keep. So
Nice.
I'm getting a collection that never in a million years I thought I would have. I never thought I'd be painting football helmets, let alone that's like a big deal. And I have a collection of like 7 or 8 helmets that have been worn on the field, So
Wow.
it's pretty neat. It's just very weird, I guess.
Awesome.
That's really cool. Well, you had talked about a couple times your wife helping you out. I know just seeing some of your posts, your family's very involved in these projects. How meaningful is it that your family is there? They've got your back. They're working with you, and that they also get to go with you to this game at Utah, and that you get to spend that time with your family. Just how can you talk to how meaningful that is?
Oh yeah, it's so when we did the sports art, a lot of that was like we'd get to go to stadiums, and I went to the Major League Baseball All-Star game a couple times, and we were at the media center for the Super Bowl, and that was always just my wife and I. And then even now when we do shows, a lot of the times the kids don't get to go because it's so busy. I'm working, she's working, and it's hard to watch the kids there. So it's pretty much just us. Well, this one, and like I said, Laura's always been involved, but with this one, it was even more so, just with the amount of work these took to get done. And so we couldn't go do a lot of things, and they hardly saw me. I mean, at first I was getting home at, like 10 or 11, and then we kept getting closer to that deadline, and, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. So I would drop him off at school, and sometimes I'd see him the next day when I dropped him off for school. So to get this project all done, and then for Cody, he's the equipment manager at Utah, to invite the whole family to come and experience this, for the boys to, people talk about, they always, the famous artist thing. And, and I don't really see myself as that, but I get to do a lot of neat things, and they're always not involved with it. So for them to be able to come and, get a tour of the locker rooms and the coaches' rooms, and into the practice facilities, and walked around and, kind of gave knuckles to the players as they'd walk by, and just, be behind the whole scenes of everything. And then we were on the field before the game and front rows during the game, and they had us on the big screen. And
yep.
And then evidently we're on national TV, I guess. I didn't know about that. And we're sitting there, and my phone just starts blowing up that, like, hey, we just saw you on TV. And I was like, no kidding? So and even the people, it was funny because the people behind us were like, who are you? Our friends are texting us, and we were just on national TV. It's like, well, I'm the guy that painted the helmets. So it was just to see their faces and to get to be a part of that, and finally kind of see more of why I work so hard, and what we do, and why Laura was so busy with the helmets and everything. They just talked about it after the game, the whole drive home. I mean, it means the world to them to actually get to see this. And of course, to me, for them to be part of it too. So, because it really is just us that does this. I don't have any employees, it's Laura and I, and my dad helps some, and that's it, that do all this. So.
Oh, that's really cool. That's so cool.
That's incredible.
This weekend was one of those weekends that I actually, kind of stopped and stood back and kind of looked at what I did, because, well, it's like, shut. I mean, already tomorrow I got to start working on the next project, and that's always what it is. It's, what's next. And I get it done, and I ship it off to wherever, and then they do their thing with it. And it's like, oh, I get a text that, hey, your painting was at Yankee Stadium, and it's like, well, okay, wow. But I'm working on, this now. It's like, I don't have time to think about that. And there's so much of that to be able to just stop and see these on the field, because I've never seen them in person after they're done and on the field. So to be able to see the team wearing them, and all the excitement from the fans, and just the way we were embraced and spoiled for the weekend, it was just, it meant the world to me, especially having my family there. So it's been a crazy trip so far. That's for sure.
One last question real quick, I guess. What was that environment like at Utah? Because obviously you were there at the game. Utah, a huge win over Oregon. I'm going to say the helmets helped. I think it just helped them play better. I'm willing to say that. But what was that environment like? Because on TV, I mean, it seemed like it was just crazy loud, super energetic. What was it like being there at the game?
Man, it was just... It's one of those things, you go in there and you have these helmets and these special uniforms, and you're playing the number 3 ranked team in the nation. And it's like, man, I'm undefeated with my custom painted helmets. I kind of want to keep that streak.
There you go. Yeah.
So you get in there, and then, you know, Utah scores first, and then they score again, and they score again. And then that punt return right before halftime, that place was just rocking. That was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. So, yeah, it was insanely loud, and everybody was just having such a good time. Just, I don't think anybody expected that, you know, and to come out there and to hold them to what, 8 points, I think. It's the day's been a blur since then, but it was just unreal, you know, unreal.
That's so cool. Yeah, it was a huge win for Utah, and that was my Pac-12 pick at the beginning of the year. I felt a little bit justified finally that they came through for me, and yeah, what a game for the Utes for sure.
I think their largest crowd ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like their largest crowd ever, and then it was Coach Whittingham became the all-time leading wins coach for Utah at that game, and then to knock off the number 3 team to wrap up the Pac-12 South Division. I mean, it was just huge. It was a huge game, and then to me to get to be part of that, you know, and have those helmets on the field, and like I said, having my family there just meant the world to me. Amazing. So it was just, I'm still grinning from it. It was so much fun.
That's good. Well, awesome. And you deserve that too. I mean, I know you're talking about it, but I still can't imagine all of the work that went into that. That's so much. So yeah, you absolutely deserve that moment for sure.
And normally I'm just kind of the guy in the background that paints and then ships it off to wherever, and, you know, everybody else takes credit for their helmet and their uniform, and Utah's just been over the top with promoting me, that I was the artist and that I worked with them. And you know, Cody and Chase at the university, they've been really good about it was a team. I mean, the uniform they created, you know, just wasn't slapping stars and stripes on a uniform. I mean, if you've seen the video, there's so much significance in that uniform. And then for me to just get to paint the helmet is just, you know, the cherry on the top of an amazing uniform. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like I said, for them to get to play and to get the win, and for us to be there, it's just been unbelievable.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we thank you so much for you being here. All right, when we come back.